प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् तं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. We have finished 4 chapters and we are about to enter into the 5th chapter, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of action and renunciation of action. But before entering into the chapter, Maharshi Ji gave the summary of the first 4 chapters and how all that knowledge is linked with the knowledge that is being given in chapter 5. Now let's begin with the 2nd chapter. Here Bhagavan Krishna enlightened Arjuna on the understanding of Samkhya and Yoga. He brought the clarity of the knowledge about the perishable and imperishable aspects of life and thereby casting off his ignorance about the nature of life and its relationship with the field of action. Further, this knowledge also gave the realization of one's true divine nature in eternal freedom. Bhagavan's inspiring words of Samkhya and Yoga created in Arjuna's mind an urge to follow them. Next, in the 3rd chapter, he brought to light the practice of Karma Yoga, which is action in the state of union with the divine or action in order to make this divine union permanent. So this knowledge of Karma Yoga raises the dignity of both the doer and the action. Next, he continued the teaching in the 4th chapter and Bhagavan gave Arjuna a deeper understanding of the relationship of oneself with the field of action. He made clear to him the state of separation that exists naturally between the inner being and the outer face of life in activity. This gave Arjuna the insight into the reality of life and activity and revealed to him that the inner being is completely independent of action. Arjuna then perceived that activity does not belong to what life essentially is, the being in eternal freedom. Now, the fourth chapter has been called the Yoga of Knowledge of Renunciation of Action. Here, the title is very significant. It tells us that according to this teaching, yoga or union is gained through the knowledge of renunciation, through the knowledge of the self as completely detached from activity. So again, yoga or union is gained through the knowledge of renunciation, knowing that the self is completely detached from activity. And here it also establishes that the state of renunciation is natural on the levels both of cosmic and individual life. Here, in this state of renunciation on the cosmic level, God remains uninvolved with the activities of creation and evolution. In the same way, on the level of individual life, the self remains uninvolved with activity. Further, this natural state of renunciation is the true basis of all life, and proper knowledge of it brings freedom from bondage. And this is the essential knowledge of the fourth chapter. Now, one might think that the fourth chapter is challenging the doctrine of Karma Yoga taught in the third chapter. But in reality, it is not so. If the chapter has proclaimed enlightenment through renunciation of action, then it would have been contrary to the principle of Karma Yoga. But here, it proclaims enlightenment through the knowledge of renunciation of action. So now, this makes it clear that the principle of renunciation is only to be understood and it is not to be practiced. Again, the principle of renunciation is only to be understood and it is not to be practiced. The state of renunciation is produced through Karma Yoga as given in chapter 4, verse number 41, and there is no way of practicing renunciation. The experiential knowledge of renunciation is extolled here and not the practice of renunciation. Again, it is the knowledge of renunciation which becomes actually the experience of renunciation and not the practice of renunciation. Further, try to understand this clearly. When we state that renunciation is not to be practiced, we are aware of the recluse way of life. But the renunciation of the recluse is renunciation of external things and is relevant only to a particular way of living. And it is not in itself a way to God. Again, it is not the practice of renunciation, but the knowledge of it that helps on the way to God. Try to listen carefully. The knowledge of renunciation expounded in the fourth chapter is necessary for those on the path of Karma Yoga as well as for those on the path of Samkhya. So again, this state of renunciation is experienced on both paths, both the path of the householder and also the path of the sannyasi, or karma and Sankhya Yoga. Here it is very important that the intellect be clear, because unless the intellect is clear about the significance of this experience, doubts will remain and will impede further progress. Try to understand this carefully. Now both Karma Yoga and Samkhya each start on the common ground of transcendental meditation. This leads directly to transcendental self-consciousness, where even the most refined field of thought has been renounced and the self stands alone in its pure state of being. Here, this is a state of complete renunciation, but it is reached only during meditation. It is not permanent. And how can this be made permanent? Through the regular and continued practice of meditation, alternating with activity, mental activity on the path of Sankhya and physical activity on the path of Karma Yoga. And by doing so, this transcendental self-consciousness develops into cosmic consciousness, wherein one experiences the self as separate from activity and thus lives the natural state of renunciation in daily life. So here the state of renunciation has become permanent, and this state of cosmic consciousness develops further so that the separation between the self and activity, which already presented the complete state of renunciation, dissolves into the ultimate unity of God consciousness. So here again what we are seeing is that this separation that you have seen in the cosmic consciousness has been resolved in God consciousness, and it looks like as though it has been resolved beyond the range of renunciation, but it is in fact renunciation in its full perfection. Again, in God consciousness, it is renunciation in its full perfection. Nothing now remains except pure life. So, the fourth chapter brings out the principles of renunciation in each of these states: the transcendental consciousness, the cosmic consciousness, and God consciousness. Further, the knowledge given in this fourth chapter has enriched the teachings about the paths of Samkhya and Karma Yoga given in the second and third chapters. And it has silently established the state of renunciation as common ground, a common milestone, and a common goal on both paths. Now, moving forward into the fifth chapter, this chapter takes advantage of the knowledge given in the fourth, explicitly places Samkhya and Karma Yoga together, presenting them as equally useful in bringing eternal liberation in the midst of every activity. Now, in this fifth chapter, it establishes a philosophy of yoga or divine union through renunciation of action. Again, this might be expected to contradict the philosophy of yoga through action, the Karma Yoga. But Bhagavan's theme is so marvelous that far from offering any sense of contradiction with Karma Yoga, this chapter succeeds in drawing together Karma Yoga and Sankhya. Gloriously, it places them both on the same level of renunciation, and by showing the principles of these paths to be in close proximity, it uses them both together to evolve a new philosophy of yoga, and this is called the Yoga of Renunciation. So far we understand that renunciation is plainly a state of loss. So in this yoga of renunciation, we can say it means yoga of loss. And how is this brought about? It is brought about by union through loss. This loss or renunciation becomes a means to perfection, and renunciation comes forward to save life and bring fulfillment to it. Without this philosophy of renunciation, the philosophy of action will always remain incomplete. Why? It is because the renunciation of action lies at the opposite extreme to the performance of action. Just as separation contrasts with union, so renunciation of action contrasts with the yoga of action. So here it is important to take both into account, both the extremes, the union and the renunciation. Otherwise, the philosophy will be incomplete. Here, it's important to understand that the philosophy of renunciation is not merely complementary to the philosophy of action, nor just an essential part of that philosophy. In reality, the philosophy of renunciation is a complete philosophy of action in itself. And this philosophy of renunciation is so complete that by remaining strictly within the boundaries of renunciation and without having to consider the field of action at all, it is capable of upholding the philosophy of action. Again, the whole philosophy of Karma Yoga can be explained through this philosophy of renunciation, because the basis of Karma Yoga is transcendental consciousness. Here again, the way to transcendental consciousness is through the withdrawal of the mind from the field of outside experience. And it does not matter whether we consider the process of gaining transcendental consciousness in terms of activity towards the transcendent, or in terms of activity away from the field of outside experience. Here, the first would express the principle in terms of Karma Yoga. Gaining transcendental consciousness in terms of activity towards the transcendent. Now the second, which is in terms of activity away from the field of outside experience, is in terms of renunciation. But again here, one should not lose sight of the fact that renunciation does not offer any practice. Please understand this. The doctrine of renunciation does not provide an independent practice, and renunciation is therefore not a path in itself. It presents a theory based on the practice of other paths. Again, the practical aspects of the philosophy of renunciation is found in the techniques of Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga. Now, in this present chapter 5, it expounds the compatibility of the two chapters. Chapter 3, which has brought out the knowledge, the principle of action, and then the chapter 4, which has brought out the knowledge of renunciation. The marvel of this chapter is it does so from the standpoint of renunciation, which is abstract, rather than from that of action, which is concrete. Further, while combining the two extremes of action and renunciation, it combines the two different paths of yoga and Samkhya, and thus it gives expression to a complete philosophy of the integrated life. So here is a call to every man, come by any path and liberation will be yours. Again, here is a call to every man, come by any path and liberation will be yours. And this is what makes Bhagavad Gita the scripture of divine union. This is the perfection of the discourse from the lips of Yogeshwara, Krishna, the Lord of the yogis of all time. He proclaims with ease both the yoga of action and the yoga of renunciation of action. He brings unification and harmony to the most extreme contradictions. He presents the state of eternal freedom in divine consciousness on the level of action based on renunciation. Moreover, it establishes the necessity of gaining God consciousness for the sake of successful activity in daily life, and at the same time emphasizes the need for activity to gain God consciousness. He brings harmony in both the material and spiritual aspects of life, and this way he opens a way both to success and to salvation for man, whether one is a householder or recluse, and in any age. The knowledge in this chapter enables any man to glorify his world by the light of the divine, and also to attain divine freedom in a most natural way through the daily activity of life. This chapter contains 29 verses, and there is inexhaustible wisdom in all these 29 verses. It stands as a beacon not only for those who are miserable and confused, but also for seekers and even for those who are well advanced on the path. So here in this vision for chapter 5, the important points that will be covered will be: liberation is gained both through action and renunciation. The two paths are not considered separate by the wise. Renunciation is difficult to attain without union with the divine, which also brings freedom from the bondage of action. The person established in divine union performs actions on the level of the senses, mind, and intellect for the purification of his soul. Remaining in bliss within himself, he is uninvolved with action and its fruits. Next, all action is performed by the force of nature, but under the spell of ignorance, the doer assumes authorship of action and becomes bound to its fruits. Next, established in that knowledge, wholly purified, in that state of profound equanimity, a man lives eternal freedom in the perpetual bliss of divine union. Next, the joys of the senses are sources of sorrow. The enlightened man does not delight in them. The ability to resist the excitement of desire and anger is the criteria of a man in union. Next, delighted in the self, freed from desire and anger, man finds abiding freedom in cosmic consciousness and rises to eternal peace in God consciousness. Finally, the principle of renunciation comprehends the same height of human perfection as is achieved by the path of action. So tomorrow we will enter into the chapter 5 and start with the first sloka or the first verse. Jai Gurudev, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गीतामाहात्म्यम्। गीताशास्त्रमिदं पुण्यं यः पठेत् प्रयतः पुमान् विष्णोः पदमवाप्नोति भयशोकादिवर्जितः। गीताध्ययनशीलस्य प्राणायामपरस्य च नैव सन्ति हि पापानि पूर्वजन्मकृतानि च। मलनिर्मोचनं पुंसां जलस्नानं दिने दिने सकृद्गीताम्भसि स्नानं संसारमलनाशनं। गीतासु गीता कर्तव्या किमन्यैः शास्त्रविस्तरैः या स्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुखपद्माद्विनिसृता। भारतामृतसर्वस्वं विष्णोर्वक्त्राद् विनिसृतं। गीता गङ्गोदकं पीत्वा पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः। पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। एकं शास्त्रं देवकी पुत्रगीतम् एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव। एको मन्त्रस्तस्य नामानि यानि कर्माप्येकं तस्य देवस्य सेवा।
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Here is the meaning of the Guru Sloka here. I offer my salutations to my Guru, who removes the darkness of ignorance of the unenlightened by applying the ointment of this Adhyatmic knowledge and opens the eyes to this light of enlightenment. Now the meaning of the Gita Mahatmyam slokas. The first one who recites with devotion This Bhagavad Gita scripture, which is the bestower of all knowledge, wisdom and virtue, will attain the holy abode of Bhagavan Vishnu, which is always free from the mundane qualities based on fear and lamentation. Next, if one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely, then by the grace of Bhagavan, the karmas of the past misdeeds will not act upon him. Next, one may clean and purify himself daily by taking a bath in water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganga called Bhagavad Gita, for him the impurities and the afflictions of material life is altogether vanquished. Next, because Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Paramatma, the transcendental eternal self, one need not read any other Vedic literature. One needs to only read or hear this Bhagavad Gita with great attention. In this present age, people are so busy, involved in so many mundane activities, that they do not have the time to read all of the Vedic literature. But all this extensive reading is not necessary. Just this one book, Bhagavad Gita, will suffice because it is the essence of all Vedic literature and it is directly spoken by Paramatma Krishna. Next, by drinking this Ganga water of this Bhagavad Gita, the quintessence of the Mahabharata emanating from the mouth of Bhagavan Krishna, the cycle of birth and death comes to an end, which means one does not have to take birth again. Next, all the Upanishads are like a cow, and the milker of this cow, called the Upanishads, is Lord Sri Krishna. Arjuna is the calf drinking this beautiful nectar, and the fortunate devotee is also the drinker and enjoyer of this milk or the nectar, which is the essence of the Upanishads. Next, if there need be only one holy scripture, the divine Gita sung by Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and if there be only one worshipable God, let it be Paramatma Krishna, the transcendental eternal self. And if there is only one mantra, let it be the holy names of Bhagavan. And if there is only one duty, let it be the devotional service to Bhagavan Krishna and his teaching. Jai Gurudev.